Jake Turner wiped the grease off his hands and looked at the junk that was floating in the auction dock. The ship looked like it had been in a war. It was scratched, dented, and covered in symbols he couldn't read. No one else at the auction seemed to care. Most of the dealers were gathered around the newer models, the ones that looked like they might actually fly. Jake ran a small salvage business on Meridian 7, a rundown frontier station at the edge of known space. He bought ships that were broken, took them apart for parts, and sold what he could. It wasn't fun work, but it paid the bills. He was interested in this alien ship because the starting bid was so low. The metal alone would be worth something even if the ship was completely dead. When the auctioneer asked for bids, he raised his hand. 500 credits, he yelled. No one said anything. The auctioneer looked around the room, shrugged, and hit his gavel. The man in the back bought it. Jake couldn't believe how lucky he was. 500 credits for a whole ship? Even one that is broken? He knew something was wrong with it, but he would figure it out later. He paid the fee, got the docking codes, and went to check out his new boat. When you got up close to the ship, it was bigger than it looked from the auction floor. The hull was made of a dark metal that looked like it sparkled when the lights from the station hit it. Jake didn't recognize the language that the symbols carved into the sides were in. He had seen a lot of alien technology as a salvage dealer, but this was different. Maybe older. Or maybe just from a place very far away. He found the door and typed in the code to get in. The door made a sound like air escaping when it opened. Inside it was completely dark. Jake took out his flashlight and carefully stepped onto the boat, testing each step to make sure the floor would hold his weight. Everything changed the moment both of his feet crossed the line. All over the ship, lights came on. Jake tripped and fell back, covering his eyes from the sudden light. The inside was perfect, there was no damage at all. The walls were smooth and looked like they were alive, with soft blue light pulsing through them. Controls and screens that lit up when he got close. This wasn't a piece of junk. This was high-tech, much more advanced than anything people had made. Jake heard a mechanical hiss coming from deeper in the ship before he could figure out what was going on. 3 big cylindrical pods on the far wall started to open, letting out clouds of white vapor. Jake's heart raced. He stepped back toward the door, but the hatch slammed shut behind him. 3 people came out of the pods. They were women, or at least they looked like women, but they were huge. They were all about 8 feet tall, with broad shoulders and strong bodies. Their skin had a bronze color that seemed to glow a little in the light from the ship. Their arms and necks were covered in complicated tattoos with swirling patterns that glowed with soft colors. They wore armor that fit their bodies well and looked both ceremonial and useful. Jake pushed himself against the wall and his mind raced. Were these real statues? What about robots? He had never seen aliens that looked even a little bit like people before. The woman in the middle opened her eyes. Their color was a striking amber, almost like a cat's. She looked right at Jake and studied him with such intensity that it made him very uncomfortable. Then she said something, and to his surprise, he understood her perfectly. "The bond has been restored," she said in a deep, commanding voice. "The ship's systems have confirmed it. You have the genetic markers." Jake's mouth got dry. What? I don't get it. I just bought this ship at an auction." The woman on the left, who had dark hair pulled back in a warrior's braid and was a little shorter than the others, stepped forward. "Did you buy our ship?" She seemed confused. "That shouldn't have been possible. We can't sell or give away our ship." Jake said, "Well, someone sold it," trying to keep his voice steady. "Listen, I don't know who you are or what you're doing on my ship, but your ship." The third woman, who had scars on her arms and face, smiled. "Human, this ship is ours. We are warriors from the 7th Fleet and we are Valorians. This ship's captain is Helena. This is Morgan, our navigator, and Cassie, our engineer." Jake looked at each of the tall women. Okay. It's your boat. I'll just leave and we can figure out the refund later." He turned to leave, but Helena's voice stopped him in his tracks. "You can't go." Jake turned around. "What do you mean I can't go? You can't just leave me here." Cassie moved closer, and Jake had to turn his head to see her. She wasn't really threatening, but she was very big, which was scary. She said, "Our ship's AI has done a full genetic scan on you. It has found that you are a 99.7% match for our bonded mate, Commander Ryan, who died in battle 3 cycles ago." Jake blinked. "What do you mean?" Morgan said, "Our husband," as if that explained everything. Valerian law and customs say that when a bonded mate dies, the ship's AI looks for a genetic replacement. It has found you. You are our new friend." Jake laughed, but it sounded a little crazy. "That's crazy. I'm not your husband. I don't even know who you are. I'm a person from Earth. This is all a mistake. Helena's face softened a little, but her voice stayed strong. There's no doubt about it. In this case, the ship's systems don't break down. There are ways in which your genetic makeup is compatible with ours that happen only once in a billion lifetimes. People have recognized the bond. You are now our bonded partner under Valerian law. Well, according to the law, you can't just say someone is your husband without their permission. Jake shot back. He walked over to the control panel by the door, hoping to be able to unlock it, but the symbols didn't make any sense. Now open this door. Cassie said, we can't, and she really did sound sorry. Once the bond is made, the ship goes into protection mode. It won't let you go until the right bonding ceremonies are over. It's for your own good. Is my safety? Jake's voice got louder. You say you're keeping me safe, but you're really kidnapping me? The three women looked at each other. Morgan talked to the other people in a language Jake didn't understand. Helena nodded slowly and then turned to look at Jake again. We know this is shocking for you, she said. People don't know about our customs. But you need to know that men are rare and valuable among us. We don't take the bond lightly. Our last mate died defending this ship and the people on it. We can't ignore the fact that the universe has given us you, even though it wasn't easy. Jake leaned against the wall, his head spinning. This had to be a dream. A dream that was very strange and very specific. He would wake up any second in his small apartment on the station, and this whole thing would be over. But the metal was cold on his back, and the three huge alien women were still staring at him with looks that ranged from worry to interest. This was real. This was really happening even though it seemed impossible. I want to go home, Jake said in a low voice. Helena's amber eyes looked like they might have been full of sympathy. We know. But the ship has made up its mind. And none of us are going anywhere until we finish what we need to do. Jake sat on the bridge floor with his head in his hands, trying to understand what these strange women were saying to him. It sounded like something out of a bad science fiction book, but it was really happening to him. Helena stood there with her arms crossed, looking down at him with a face that was hard to read. Men are rare in our world. Maybe one male is born for every 20 females. Our society changed a long time ago because of this. Women have husbands in common. That's just the way things are. That's great for you, Jake said as he looked up at her. But I'm not from your world. I'm a person. This is all a mistake. Cassie knelt down next to him, which was still scary because she was so big. He could see her glowing tattoos changing colors and moving up close. She said, we are just as surprised as you are. Most species think of humans as primitive, little, weak. It doesn't make sense that you are genetically compatible with us. Thanks for the nice words, Jake said quietly. Morgan was at the control panel, checking the ship's systems. She looked back over her shoulder. It doesn't matter if it makes sense. The bond is on file. There is no way to break Valerian law. Marriage bonds can't be broken. Jake stood up quickly, his anger taking the place of his confusion. I don't care about your rules. I didn't agree to any of this. You can't just take someone and call it marriage. Helena's eyes got smaller. We're not taking you away. The ship knew you were ours. We're just taking back what is ours. Jake shot back. I'm not something that belongs to anyone. The whole ship shook before Helena could answer. A warning alarm went off and red lights started flashing along the walls. Morgan's hands moved quickly over the controls. We have incoming, she said sharply. Several armed ships are coming toward the station. They are aiming for this docking bay. Jake's stomach sank. What? Why? Cassie was already heading toward the weapons locker, where she took out an energy rifle. Someone knows what this ship is. Someone wants it. How much is this thing worth? Jake asked, and things started to make sense in his head. Helena took her own weapon off the wall and checked its charge with ease. Valerian ships are worth more than most stations. Just the technology could make someone very rich. If it were sold to the wrong person, it could change the power balance in this area. Jake's face turned white. He thought he was buying junk metal. Instead, he had found something that was worth millions, maybe billions, of credits. Now people with guns were coming to get it. The ship rocked again, but this time it was worse. Jake could see armed mercenaries in combat suits using cutting torches on the docking bay door through the view screen. There had to be at least 20 of them. Morgan said, "We need to leave," and her fingers danced over the launch controls. Now. Cassie said, "The docking clamps are still on. They will take a minute and a half to let go." Helena walked toward the airlock. "Then we get 90 seconds. Jake grabbed her arm without thinking, but as soon as she looked down at his hand, he wished he hadn't. He let go right away. "You're not really going out there. There are too many of them. Helena's face softened a little as if she were amused. You care about us. That is sweet. But not needed. She pressed the button to open the airlock, and the door hissed open. The 3 Valerian women stepped out into the docking bay just as the mercenaries broke down the outer door and rushed in. Jake's heart raced as he watched from the ship's cameras. The mercenaries started shooting right away. Plasma bolts lit up the sky and were deadly. But the Valerian women moved in a way that Jake had never seen before. Helena avoided the first volley and quickly closed the gap to the nearest merc. She took his rifle with one hand, crushed it like it was made of cardboard, and then threw the man across the bay like he was nothing. He hit 2 other people and all 3 fell to the ground in a pile. Cassie moved like a dancer, weaving and spinning between shots. She grabbed one merc's arm and threw him over her shoulders so hard that the metal floor dented. Someone else tried to shoot her from behind, but she grabbed the barrel of the gun with her bare hand, pulled it away and broke it in half. Morgan was the most frightening of the 3. She didn't waste any time moving. Every move was planned and exact. In less than 10 seconds she disarmed 4 mercs, breaking weapons and bones with the same ease. One man tried to run away but she threw a broken rifle at him, which hit him in the leg and knocked him down right away. Jake stood there in shock and silence. The fight didn't last long. 20 armed mercenaries were moaning on the deck, their weapons broken, and not one of the Valerian women had even broken a sweat. Helena's arm had a small cut on it that was already healing. He could see the skin knitting itself back together as he watched. They walked back to the ship calmly as if they had just finished a light workout. Helena smiled and looked up at the camera. The 3 women closed the airlock behind them and went back to the bridge. Jake just looked at them. Morgan said, "The docking clamps are released," as he slid into the pilot's seat. "Starting engines." "Wait," Jake said, getting his voice back. "We can't just go. Security at the station will." "Station security will ask questions we don't have time to answer," Helena said. She put a hand on his shoulder, and he could feel how heavy and strong her grip was. Those mercenaries had a lot of weapons and knew a lot. A powerful person sent them. More people will come if we stay. And the next time they might threaten the people on the station to make us give up. As the ship started to leave Meridian 7, Jake looked at the view screen. For the past 5 years, it had been his only home. His business, his apartment and his favorite bar where the bartender knew his usual order, were all on that station. "This is crazy," he said in a low voice. Cassie looked at her gun and put it back in its rack. "You bought a Valerian warship for 500 credits. Did you think it would be easy?" Morgan drove the ship through the station's departure lanes, ignoring the angry messages from traffic control. "We are now on the run. The station will say that this ship was stolen." "Great," Jake said as he slumped into a chair. "Just great." Helena sat across from him with serious amber eyes. "Jake Turner, you are now our friend. We will protect you no matter what you think. No one will be able to take you away from us. This is how we do things." Jake looked at the 3 alien women who had changed everything in his life in less than an hour. They were powerful and dangerous warriors who seemed completely sure that he was theirs. He was no longer able to live a quiet life as a salvage dealer. He was on a stolen alien warship, running away from mercenaries, and he was tied to 3 huge alien women by a law he didn't understand. Jake knew there was no turning back as the station disappeared behind them and the stars stretched out in front of them. "What do we do now?" he asked. Morgan set the controls for deep space navigation. "Now we run. And we learn who wants the ship so badly that they would kill for it." The ship sped up faster than light, and in a flash of blue light, Jake's old life was gone. Jake was beginning to realize how bad things were 3 days into their escape. The ship's sensors had picked up 2 pirate ships following them through the Kessler Belt, a huge asteroid field that most pilots stayed away from at all costs. Morgan tried to lose them by weaving through the spinning rocks, but the pirates were too smart for that. Cassie, who was watching the tactical display from her station, said, "They're gaining. These people aren't new to this." Helena looked at her gun. "How long until we finish the field?" 12 minutes, Morgan said, her hands steady on the controls even though the ship shook every time a small asteroid hit the shields. 10 maybe if I push the engines." Jake held on to the armrests of his seat as the ship rolled hard to avoid a rock the size of a building. He had always had trouble with motion sickness, but this was pushing him to his limits. He could see the asteroid spinning past on the view screen in a deadly dance of stone and ice. Cassie said, "They're shooting." An energy blast hit the back shields, making the ship lurch. Across the bridge, warning lights came on. Morgan made up for it by diving the ship between 2 huge asteroids, but another blast hit them even harder. The lights went out. "Shields at 60%, Cassie shouted. "We can't take many more hits like that." Morgan's jaw got tight. She used the asteroid as cover and pulled the ship into a tight spiral around it. They were safe for a little while. After that, Jake saw her wince and hold her side. "Hey, Morgan?" In a flash, Helena was next to her. Morgan said, "I'm fine," but Jake could see blood seeping through her armor where a piece of shrapnel from the console had cut her. "Just stay." Suddenly, the ship dropped and alarms went off. Morgan's hands slipped off the controls as she bent over in pain. Cassie jumped into the co-pilot's seat and took control of the ship, steering it away from a huge asteroid just in time. Cassie said, "The engine power is going down," her voice tight. "We're losing the main drive." Helena was already taking care of Morgan's injury by getting out some kind of medical kit. "What happened?" "Overload in the plasma conduits," Cassie said as she looked at the readouts. "The damage from that last hit set off a chain reaction. We need to send power through the backup systems again, or we'll lose all the engines." "Is it possible for you to do it from here?" Helena asked. Cassie shook her head, and her face showed that she was angry. "No. Someone needs to go into the maintenance tunnels and reconnect the power relays by hand. But the places to get in are..." She stopped and looked like she was in pain. "They're too small. Made for the first crew. We can't fit." Jake got it before she was done. Another species, one smaller than the Valorians, had built the ship. He got up, his legs shaking from the adrenaline. "I can do it." He was looked at by all three women. Even though Morgan was hurt, she laughed and then winced in pain. You haven't even seen Valorian technology yet." Jake said, "Then tell me what to do." He was scared, very scared, but he could see the problem clearly. If they didn't fix the engines, they would be easy targets. And the sitting ducks died. Cassie looked at him for a long time before nodding. "Okay. Come here." She pulled up a map of the ship's interior on her screen and pointed to a series of narrow passages that ran along the engine core. "You need to go to Junction 7A. You need to reconnect 3 power relays." "Let me explain it to you. Valorian men don't do this kind of work," Helena said quietly as she worked on Morgan's wound. "It's thought to be too risky." "Well, I'm a person," Jake said, trying to sound braver than he was. "We do dumb, dangerous things all the time." He found the access hatch close to the back of the bridge and opened it. There was a tunnel inside that was only big enough for his shoulders. Red emergency lights flashed along its length, and he could feel heat coming from somewhere deep inside. The ship shook again as Cassie avoided another asteroid. "Quickly," Cassie said as she gave him a toolbox. "We don't have a lot of time." Jake crawled through the hole. He instantly regretted everything. It was hot and cramped, and every surface was covered with strange alien technology that hummed and sparked. The ship shook all the time, throwing him against the walls. He could hear the engines groaning somewhere below him. It sounded like metal under stress. Cassie's voice came through his comm and said, "Okay, keep going. About 20 meters. There will be a junction with yellow lines." As Jake crawled, his elbows scraped against the walls. He was sweating so much that it dripped into his eyes. The deeper he went, the worse the heat got. He could hardly breathe. "I see it," he said, panting as he reached the junction. 3 thick cables hung down and sparked every now and then. They seemed important. Cassie said, "Those are the relays. You need to plug them back into the ports on the right side. Red goes to red, blue goes to blue, and green goes to green. But Jake, don't touch them when they're sparking. Let the power cycle reset." The ship rocked violently, and Jake's head hit the tunnel ceiling. Stars burst in his sight. He could taste blood. "Jake." Helena's voice came through, worried. "Are you hurt?" He lied, "I'm fine," as he watched the cables spark and dance. He could see the ports that Cassie was talking about. The cables were live with electricity and weighed about 30 pounds each. His hands were shaking. He counted the seconds between sparks as he waited. 5 seconds. That was his chance. Jake took the red cable and shoved it into its port when the sparking stopped. It clicked into place with a satisfying sound. The lights on the ship got a little brighter. "Okay," Cassie said. 2 more. It was harder to use the blue cable. It had pulled back into the wall and Jake had to reach out to get it. The ship shook again and he almost lost his grip. He finally got it to work. The sounds of the engine changed and became smoother. He said to himself, "Last one." The green cable was the worst of them all. It was still sparking and it looked like the reset cycle was broken. It never stopped. He said, "The green one isn't cycling." The comm was quiet. Then Cassie spoke in a careful voice. "Then we have a problem. If all three aren't connected, the engines will stop working in about 2 minutes. What if I just take it anyway? Jake asked. Cassie said in a flat voice, the voltage would kill you. Don't even think about it. Jake looked at the cable that was sparking. He could see burn marks on the wall where it had been shooting. 2 minutes. There wasn't enough time to come up with a better plan. He looked down at the metal tools he was holding. The handle was made of rubber. Hey Cassie, he said. This set of tools. Is it protected? Yes, but... Jake didn't wait for her to finish. He put his shirt over his hand for extra protection, used the tool with the rubber handle to hook the cable, and pulled it toward the port. Electricity jumped across the metal, and he could feel the shock even through the insulation. His arm felt numb. But the cable fit into the port and locked in place. The engines roared back to life. The ship moved quickly and Jake was thrown back in the tunnel, his arm going limp. Jake. Helena's voice was sharp. Report. He said, I'm fine, even though his whole arm felt like it was on fire. Engines are fixed. 5 minutes later, when he crawled back onto the bridge, his clothes were ripped, his arm was burned, and he had a cut above his eyebrow that was bleeding into his eye. The 3 Valerian women looked at him like they had never seen him before. Morgan, who was now bandaged and sitting up, spoke first. You went into the maintenance core while you were fighting. By yourself. That was very stupid. It worked though, Jake said as he fell into a chair. It did, Helena said in a soft voice. She was looking at him in a way that might have been respect. I've never seen a man do that before. Men are safe on our world. Safe. They don't crawl into the cores of burning engines. Good for them, Jake said under his breath. Can someone please tell me we lost the pirates? Cassie smiled. 3 minutes ago I left them behind. We understand. Jake shut his eyes and tried to stop his hands from shaking. He had done it. He really did it. But he didn't feel better for long. 20 minutes later, the ship's proximity alarms went off again. This time there weren't any pirates behind them. They were being boarded by pirates. How did they get on board? Jake asked, watching the security cameras as armed people moved through the lower decks. They sent out boarding pods while we weren't looking, Cassie said with a frown. Attached to the hull. Now they're cutting through. Helena and Cassie picked up their weapons and got ready to fight. Jake was looking at the ship's layout on the screen, and an idea was forming in his mind. Hold on, he said. Don't go down there yet. Helena frowned. They will be at the bridge in a few minutes. I know. But we don't have to fight them. Jake's fingers moved over the control panel, which brought up the ship's environmental systems. We just need to be smarter than them. He put bulkheads all over the ship to divide it into sections. The pirates were now stuck in 3 different places. After that, he started messing with the atmosphere controls, letting air out of one area and putting too much pressure on another. He watched the pirates run around in a panic on the security feeds. Morgan asked, What are you doing? Hurting them, Jake said. He opened one hallway and closed another, making the pirates go where he wanted them to. He took them to the cargo bay and locked them in. He said, They're all in one place now. But they'll try to get through the doors. Jake pulled up the cargo bay's gravity controls and turned them all the way up. The pirates suddenly fell over on the feed, unable to move because of their own weight. Jake said, I'll keep them like this until they give up. No shooting, no fighting, and no one has to die. After 10 minutes of being crushed by fake gravity, the pirates gave up. Jake let air out of the cargo bay, not enough to kill them but enough to knock them out. Then he told Cassie to put them all in an escape pod and send it to the nearest station. Helena stood next to Jake's chair when it was over and looked down at him with a look he couldn't quite understand. She said in a low voice, Valerian men are taught to let the women protect them. To stay safe while we fight. But you think like a soldier. It's just not the kind of warrior we're used to. Jake shrugged, still feeling the rush of adrenaline fade. I think like a person. We aren't the biggest or the strongest, so we have to be smart. Helena smiled, really smiled. Maybe that's not such a bad thing after all. Jake was unable to sleep. It had been 2 weeks since they had gotten away from the pirates, and ever since then, something had been bothering him. He sat in the quiet archive room of the ship and looked through files on the database. After he fixed the engines, the ship's AI let him in. It seemed that saving the ship gave you special rights. Most of the files were boring technical manuals and star charts that he didn't understand. But then he found a folder with Valerian symbols on it that the translator had a hard time with. When it finally showed up, the label made his stomach drop. Restricted Council Eyes Only. His finger was right above it. He knew deep down that he shouldn't see this. But Jake had never been very good at following his gut when he was curious. He opened it up. The first document was a study of genetic compatibility that was done about 30 years ago. Jake read it slowly and his translator earpiece had to work hard to keep up. At first, the words didn't make sense. Then they did and he had to read it again to be sure. People. The research focused on humans. The study found that human DNA was very compatible with Valerian genetics, even more so than some Valerian subspecies. More than 90% of the time the compatibility rate was high. 90%. That meant that almost everyone could connect with Valorians. Jake sat back and thought quickly. Why didn't anyone know about this if it was true? Earth had met many different alien species in the last 50 years. People all over the galaxy knew about the Valorians. By now, someone should have found this out. He kept on reading. The next file was a message between members of the Valerian Council. As he read their words, his hands began to shake. One message said, "The data on how people get along must be kept secret. If this information gets out, it will throw our whole social structure into chaos." Another answer, "I agree. There are billions of people in the galaxy so they could fill our bonding pools. Our customs would be lost. We have to get rid of all proof of this research." There were more notes. Plans to hide the data. Deals to keep the scientists who found it quiet. And then, terrifyingly, records of those scientists going missing. Accidents are listed. In space lost. Equipment that doesn't work. Jake was sick. He found another file, this one from 3 months ago, which was new. It was a priority alert sent to Valerian spies all over the galaxy. The message was short and scary. The bonding ship Phoenix 7 has been found at Meridian 7 station. The AI on the ship still has the original data about how to work with it. Get it and destroy it right away. If the ship has bonded with a man, get rid of him. Don't leave any proof. Jake's blood ran cold. Phoenix 7. That was this boat. They hadn't been following the ship because it was worth a lot. They had been keeping an eye on it because it was dangerous. Dangerous to the people in power who wanted to keep this secret hidden. The soldiers for hire at the station. The pirates in the field of asteroids. They hadn't just attacked at random. Someone had sent them to kill him and wipe out the ship's database. He got up so quickly that his chair fell over. He had to show the other people. In the common area, Jake saw all 3 women. Helena was cleaning her gun. Cassie was checking her tablet for problems, and Morgan was looking over navigation charts. When he came in, they all looked up. Jake said, "We need to talk. Right now." After 10 minutes, they had all read the files. The ship's engines were the only sound in the room. Helena's face had become as hard as stone. Cassie looked shaken up. Morgan had his fists clenched. Morgan said softly, "This can't be real. The council wouldn't. They wouldn't kill people to keep this a secret." "They did," Jake said. "It's all there. Names, dates, and orders. They killed the scientists who found out how humans could work together. And they've kept it a secret for 30 years. Helena put her tablet down carefully as if she were afraid she would break it. "Do you know what this means? Everything changes if people can connect with Valorians. The lack of men is what makes our whole society work. Because men are rare, we have laws, traditions, and power structures. But they're not rare," Jake said. "Not if you look at other species. There are billions of people. A billion possible partners. And someone decided that the truth was too dangerous to let out." Cassie was going over the files again and her face was getting darker. "They tried to kill you. They're still trying. You're proof that their plan exists as long as you're alive and connected to this ship. What should we do?" Morgan wanted to know. Jake had been thinking about that ever since he found the files. Even though it scared him, there was really only one answer. He said, "We show it. We take this information and send it out to everyone. We reach every news network, every government database, and every public channel we can. We make sure that everyone knows the truth." Helena suddenly got up. "No. No way." "Why not?" "Because they will kill you," Helena said in a sharp voice. "At the moment, only a small number of people know you exist. If you tell everyone this, every Valerian with power and money will want you dead. You will be the most wanted person in the galaxy." Cassie said, "She is right. The council has resources we can't even think of. Assassins, ships, and whole armies. They'll always be after you." Jake looked at the 3 women who had become. He didn't even know what to call them anymore. Not just captors. Not really friends. Something that's harder. "I know," he said simply. "But it doesn't change what is right." Morgan shook her head. "Jake, you don't get what you're asking for. They will always be looking for you. You will never be safe. Don't ever have a normal life. Is that really worth it?" Yes, Jake said, surprised by how sure he was. Hey, I'm just a junk dealer. I'm not special. But I found this out and now I have a choice. I can hide and hope they don't find me, or I can tell everyone about this secret so that it dies. You'd be throwing away your life, Helena said, but her voice was softer now. Maybe, Jake said. But what if I don't? How many people and Valorians never meet because someone chose not to tell the truth? How many people don't have friends, family, or connections? All this happened because a few powerful people wanted to stay in charge? He opened the file on his tablet and showed them the list of scientists who had died. These people died trying to tell others about this. At the very least, I can make sure that their deaths meant something. Again, the room was quiet. Helena slowly sat back down, never taking her eyes off of Jake's face. You're serious, she said. You really would do this, knowing how much it would cost? I am. Yes, I will. Cassie and Morgan looked at each other. Morgan then said something. We can't protect you from everything that comes if you do this. There will be too many foes. I know. Cassie said, you'll be running for the rest of your life. I know that too. Helena got up and walked over to him. Jake had to lean back to look her in the eye because she was so tall. She looked at his face for a long time. On Valoria we have a saying, she said in a low voice. Warriors are not judged by how many battles they win, but by how much they are willing to give up for what they believe in. I thought people were weak, gentle. I was wrong. She put a hand on his shoulder. We're with you if you do this. All the way. Cassie nodded. Anyway, they'll be hunting us all. It might as well mean something. Morgan was able to smile a little. Plus, running and fighting are what we're best at. Jake felt something in his chest that had been tight loosen. Okay then. Let's get this done before I lose my nerve. It took 3 hours to get ready. They made copies of every file, document, and piece of evidence. Jake wrote a short note to go with the data dump. My name is Jake Turner. I am a person who accidentally connected with a Valerian ship. The information I found in this ship's database shows that our species are very compatible, which is something Valerian leaders have been hiding for a long time. To keep this secret, they've killed. They're trying to kill me right now. People have a right to know the truth, so I'm sharing this information. It's up to them what they do with it. They sent the data burst to every major news network, every government channel, and every public forum they could find. Thousands of places to go in hundreds of worlds. It couldn't be stopped or hidden. The information would be everywhere in a matter of minutes. Jake saw the progress bar for the transmission fill up. 70%, 80%, 90%. Last chance to change your mind, Helena said next to him. I'm fine, Jake said even though his hands were shaking. 100%. Transmission is done. For a short time nothing happened. After that, the ship's communication system was very busy. Thousands of messages coming in. News networks asking for interviews. Officials in the government want answers. And under it all, angry encrypted military channels that Jake's translator couldn't fully decode, but he got the general idea. They were aware. Everyone was aware. And some of them were really mad. Helena looked at the tactical display. We have ships changing course to head toward us. Different vectors. They'll be here in less than an hour. Is it time to run again? Jake asked. Time to run, she said. But Helena grabbed Jake's shoulder and turned him to face her before Morgan could set their course. Her amber eyes were very strong. What you just did, she said slowly, choosing truth over safety, standing up to the most powerful forces in our society. You have the heart of a Valerian. The heart of a real warrior. Jake tried to smile, but he was scared as the tactical display showed more and more ships coming toward them. Does that mean you're okay with this whole forced marriage thing now? Helena's laugh shocked him. It was a real, honest laugh. Ask me again after we get through the next few days. The ship sped up to faster-than-light speed, and the galaxy behind them started to change. The galaxy had gone completely crazy in the 4 days since Jake's show. The story was on every news channel. On 1,000 different worlds, the biggest topic of conversation was how well humans and Valorians got along. Politicians were fighting, scientists were rushing to check the data, and social media was full of opinions from all over the world. Jake watched everything happen from the ship's communication room, where he was scrolling through headlines that still didn't seem real. Man causes intergalactic crisis. Investigation into Valerian Council for cover-up. Billions want answers about the compatibility scandal. There were pictures of his face all over the place. Someone had found an old photo of Jake Turner from when he was a salvage dealer, and now his boring face was on screens all over the galaxy. That picture made him look tired. He probably looked worse now. Cassie came to the door with a plate of food and said, "You should eat something." It was some kind of Valerian protein bar that tasted like cardboard, but it gave him energy. Jake said, "I'm not hungry," but he ate it anyway. "You haven't eaten in 8 hours," she said as she sat down next to him. "Helena is already worried that you're not taking care of yourself." Jake forced a weak smile. "Let Helena know I'm okay. Just thinking." "What are you processing?" He pointed at the screens. "All of this. I knew it would be big, but I didn't think it would be this big. People are protesting in Valoria. The council is having an emergency meeting. 3 members of the council have already quit. People are asking for investigations, trials, and criminal charges." Cassie said simply, "You did that. You made one choice that changed everything." "Yeah," Jake said in a low voice. "I still don't know if that was brave or dumb." The ship's communication system rang with a special tone that meant a priority transmission before Cassie could answer. Jake's stomach sank. For 4 days straight, they had been avoiding ships by jumping from system to system, never staying in one place long enough to be caught. Morgan's voice came through the intercom. "Jake, get to the bridge right now." He took off running. When he ran onto the bridge, all 3 women were standing around the main display with tense faces. There was an official Valerian government seal on the screen. Jake asked, "What is this?" Helena said, "A direct message from the Valerian High Council. They want to talk to you." Jake's mouth got dry. "You mean they want to arrest me?" Morgan said, "Maybe. Or maybe they want something else. The only way to find out is to do it." Jake stared at the 3 women. They had been running for days with little sleep and were always on the lookout. They had protected him without a doubt, even though he had made them criminals too. He had to tell them the truth. He asked, "What do you think I should do?" Helena put her arms across her chest. "I think you should listen to what they have to say. You are now the most wanted person in Valerian space. Talking to them can't make things worse." "That's good," Jake said under his breath, but he nodded. "Okay, let them through." The screen flickered, and all of a sudden Jake was looking at 5 Valerian women in formal council robes. They looked old, strong, and very angry. The one in the middle was the first to speak. "Jake Turner. My name is High Counselor Vera. We need to talk about the mess you've made." Jake tried to keep his voice steady. "You mean the truth I told about your government killing scientists and lying to 2 whole species?" Vera's face didn't change. "Your broadcast has caused a lot of trouble in Valerian society. Riots have happened. Our diplomatic ties with other species are not as strong as they used to be. Our economy is in trouble." "Good," Jake said, and he was surprised by how angry he was. "Perhaps you shouldn't have spent 30 years hiding the fact that humans and Valorians can get along. You shouldn't have killed people to keep that secret." One of the other members of the council leaned in. "You don't get how complicated." Jake cut in, "I know what murder is. I know how to lie. I looked through your files. I know what you did." Vera raised her hand, and the other council member stopped talking. "We're not here to talk about the past. We are here to talk about your future." "My future." Jake said it again. "You mean the part where you send killers after me for the rest of my life?" "No," Vera said, and the way she said it made Jake pay attention. "We are ready to give you amnesty. Complete legal protection. Safe trip back to Earth. Payment for your troubles. And breaking your bond with the ship and its crew." The bridge stopped making any noise. Jake felt like someone had hit him in the stomach. "Are you really letting me go?" "The information is already out there," Vera said. "Right now, killing you would only make you a martyr. The harm has been done. We need to move on and deal with this change. Your death would only make things worse." Another member of the council spoke up. "We're giving you a clean break, Mr. Turner. You can go back home. Go back to your life. You will have enough money to never have to work again. All we ask is that you leave Valerian space and never come back." Jake turned to look at Helena, Cassie, and Morgan. Their faces were carefully blank, so you couldn't tell what they were thinking. But he could tell they were tense by the way Morgan's hand clenched and unclenched at her side. "And what about those people?" Jake pointed to the 3 women and asked, "What about them? What happens to Morgan, Helena, and Cassie?" Vera's face relaxed a little. "They will also be forgiven. They were doing what they thought the bonding law said to do. They haven't broken any laws. So everyone just leaves?" Jake said it slowly. "Yes. You return to Earth. They go back to Valerian space. The bond is broken. Everyone goes on with their lives." It was everything Jake wanted. Liberty. Safety. A chance to go home and forget about this crazy time in his life. He could return to Meridian 7, start a new salvage shop and live a quiet life. Stop running. No more risk. He looked around the bridge of the ship that had become his home. At the three women who had fought with him, protected him, and pushed him to be braver than he ever thought he could be. "Can I have a minute to think about this?" he said. Vera nodded. "We'll wait." The transmission stopped. Jake turned to look at Helena, Cassie, and Morgan. Everyone was watching him closely. Morgan said, "Well," trying to sound casual but not being able to. "That's a fair offer. You'd be crazy not to take it." Cassie added, "Earth is your home. Your people are there. Your life." Helena didn't say anything, but her amber eyes were fixed on Jake's face. "What do you three want?" "What did Jake ask?" "To be honest." Cassie turned her head away. "It doesn't matter what we want. You're not in jail with us. You were never. You should do what you think is best." "That's not an answer," Jake said again. "Come on. We can't be polite anymore. What do you want?" Morgan was the first to speak and her voice was low. "I want you to stay. But I want you to want to stay. Not because you have to and not because you feel like you have to. Because you really want to be here with us." Cassie said, "I want you to be safe. If going back to Earth means you're safe, then I want you to go. Even if..." She stopped talking. "Even if what?" "Even if it means we never see you again," she said at the end. He turned to Helena. "And you?" Helena took a deep breath. "I thought you were weak when you first got on this ship." "A mistake. The ship's AI made a mistake. I've never been so wrong about anything in my life." She moved closer to him. "You fixed our engines while the ship was falling apart. You beat pirates without firing a shot. You revealed a plot that could have killed you because it was the right thing to do. You're braver than I ever thought you would be. In ways that Valerian men aren't." She spoke in a lower tone. "I want you to stay. I want to show you Valoria, introduce you to our world and make something real with you. Cassie is right, but only if that's what you want. You have the right to choose for yourself." Jake's heart was racing. He remembered his life before on Meridian 7. The small apartment. The salvage shop that barely made enough money to pay the rent. Every day eating the same cheap food at the station. Going to the same bar by yourself. It had been nice, secure, expected, and totally empty. Jake said, "I'm going to say something and you need to let me finish before you respond." "Okay." All three women nodded their heads. "I was nobody before I bought this ship. Just another guy living on the edge of civilized space. I didn't have friends, a reason to live, or anything that was important. I was just there. Waiting for something to happen." He looked at each one of them in turn. "Then you three came along and changed everything for me. You put me in danger, made me fix engines while we were being shot at, and made me be braver than I ever thought I could be. And yes, I was scared at first. I wanted to get away." Jake grinned. "But at some point I stopped being scared and started living. Very much alive. I really mattered for the first time in years. What I did had effects. Who I was made a difference." "Jake," Helena began, but he stopped her with a hand. "I'm not done. Yes, it would be safe to go back to Earth. I could live the rest of my life in comfort, wealth, and boredom. But I don't want that anymore. You three made me different. You helped me see that I can do more than I ever thought I could. And to be honest," he chuckled, "I don't even know what I would do on Earth right now. Sit in a nice apartment and think about the three amazing women I left behind?" He shook his head. "No. I'm not going back. I'm not going anywhere. With you. Not because I have to, and not because a ship's computer tells me to. This is where I want to be." It seemed like the silence that followed would last forever. Cassie then smiled the biggest smile Jake had ever seen on her face. Morgan's eyes were really watering. And Helena laughed, and it was a sound of pure happiness and relief. "Are you 100% sure?" Helena wanted to know. "Because once you say no, you can't change your mind. You'll be devoted to this life. For us." "I know," Jake said. "I've never been more sure of anything." Helena hugged him so hard that he came off the floor. Then Cassie and Morgan joined in, and Jake was suddenly surrounded by three huge alien women who were his... what? Was? Partners? Family? He chose all of the above. Everything above. They turned the sound back on. Vera and the other council members looked like they were waiting for something. Jake said clearly, "Thank you for the offer. But I'm not going to do it. I'm going to stay with Cassie, Helena, and Morgan. This ship is where I'm going to stay. And if you'll let me, I'd like to go to Valoria and be a part of whatever happens next." Vera smiled, a small, knowing smile. "I had a feeling you would say that. Okay, Mr. Turner. Welcome to Valoria. I think that having you there will make the change our society needs to make a lot easier. Jake added, but there is one condition. Stop keeping secrets. No more hiding the truth about how well humans and Valorians get along. From now on, everything is out in the open. Yes, Vera said. Secrets are no longer useful. You made sure of that. The transmission was over. Jake turned to his 3 wives? The word still sounded strange but not wrong. So, he said, trying to sound more sure of himself than he was. I guess we're going to Valoria? Morgan was already at the controls for navigation, setting the course. It's a 3-week trip from here. You have a lot of time to learn more about our culture. Our speech. Traditions of ours. Cassie added, with a grin that was a little scary, and for you to learn what it really means to be bonded to 3 Valerian warriors. Helena touched Jake's shoulder. Welcome to your new life, Jake Turner. I promise it won't be dull. Jake couldn't help but smile as the ship sped up to faster-than-light speed and headed toward the Valerian homeworld and an unknown future. He had gone from being a nobody salvage dealer to changing the way 2 whole species interacted with each other. He had found meaning in his life, discovered courage he didn't know he had, and met 3 amazing women who somehow saw value in him. He no longer had his old life. But his new life, which was strange, dangerous, and wonderful, was just beginning. Jake Turner was very excited to see what would happen next. Claude is an AI, which means he can make mistakes. Please check your answers again.